Ever since Vance learned that a mermaid heart could cure all illnesses, he had my heart surgically removed 9 times. To treat his beloved Blair. The 9th time, I wept and begged him, please no. I'll die. But he kicked me aside like I was nothing more than a stray dog, his eyes brimming with undisguised contempt. Don't mermaids have infinite healing? You bounced back the last 8 times. Who are you putting on a show for now? And if you dare run to Grandpa Edward, you'll regret it. With that, he glared at me in warning, then wrapped an arm around Blair and turned, walking away, utterly uncaring if I lived or died. When Grandpa Edward found me, my entire body was slowly beginning to fade, becoming translucent. I looked up weakly at the trembling old man and whispered, my voice faint, your ancestors saved me 9 times. I promised to protect your family for 9 generations. But now my power, built over 9 lifetimes, is completely depleted and my life is fading fast. Please let me go, Corelia. You can't leave us. If something happens to you, what will become of our family? How will we survive? Grandpa Edward Vance watched my body swaying unstably. He immediately summoned all the family's private medical team, instructing them to cure me at all costs. But after the last doctor finished examining me, he sighed and shook his head. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. But her heart has been removed. There's nothing more we can do. It's best to prepare for the worst. As he spoke, Grandpa Edward looked at me as if struck by a heavy hammer, stunned. Then he fell to his knees, pleading, Corelia, I know my wretched grandson is a monster, but please, for the sake of our family's history, forgive him this once. You promised to protect the Vance family for 9 generations, and this is only the 3rd. Don't worry. I'll make sure to rein in that ungrateful grandson of mine. As for that conniving woman, I'll kick her out as soon as possible. I'll set things right for you. Listening to him, I slowly raised my arm, which was already beginning to fade. I gave a bitter laugh, Asher's face flashing in my mind. From the first time he spoke such cruel words to me, his eyes had been full of resentment and disgust. You monster. It's an honor for your heart to save Blair. Otherwise, I would have tossed you back into the ocean ages ago. Someone quick. Put Corelia back in salt water. Seeing my body begin to fade, Grandpa Edward hurriedly ordered them to carry me into the water. I am a mermaid, and salt water helps me recover. But the moment I entered the water, I felt a searing, tearing pain course through my entire body. The intense agony made me let out a suppressed moan. I knew this was freshwater. Staying in freshwater for too long would surely kill me. But I didn't intend to call for help. Perhaps it would be better to simply die like this. I was born from the water, and I would die in the water. With that thought, I stopped resisting, letting the fresh water burn my limbs on the shore. Grandpa Edward saw no reaction from me. After a long while, and a pained expression flickered across his pale face, he suddenly felt something was very wrong. He stirred the water with his hand, then cried out in horror. Who on earth would replace the salt water with fresh water? What monster did this? He quickly ordered his men to pull me out of the water, but it was too late. While salt water was a sacred balm for mermaids, fresh water was a deadly poison to me. Just a short time submerged in it, and my body's fading had become significantly worse. I probably only had 2 or 3 days left. This is fun. Really fun. A cheerful, bell-like voice drifted from not far away. Blair was skipping happily, her face alight with excitement. Asher stood beside her, stroking her head, his gaze full of doting affection. At last Grandpa Edward knew who had swapped the water. He leaned on his cane and stormed over, slapping Asher across the face, looking at him with a mix of fury and crushing disappointment. You ungrateful son. Do you have any idea what you've done? Corelia is the protector of our family. If she's gone, do you know what the Vance family will face? Even you? But before Grandpa Edward could continue, Asher turned his head, his eyes burning with resentment. Even I was saved by her. Enough. I don't know how many times I've heard that pathetic lie. If it weren't for Blair, I'd still be in the dark. Blair saved me, not this ugly monster mermaid. Towards the end, Asher grabbed Grandpa Edward's shoulders, roaring, Grandpa, the Vance family success today is thanks to the blessings of our ancestors. Not her, Corelia. She's just a monster. When will you wake up? Finished, Asher pulled Blair and walked away. As he left, his eyes flickered towards me, full of disgust. Watching Asher's retreating figure, Grandpa Edward wanted to say more, but ultimately couldn't. He glanced at me, his body trembling slightly, almost losing his balance. At the same time, a silent decision seemed to form in his heart. That night, Grandpa Edward had Blair tied up and placed her on a hospital bed next to mine. Blair, bound and gagged, struggled violently, but the doctor showed no intention of stopping. I finally understood what Grandpa Edward meant. By setting things right for me, he intended to return my heart. Lying on the bed, I calmly accepted everything. But before the doctors could do much, the door was kicked open. Asher burst in, his face grim. Before the doctor could speak, Asher slammed him to the ground and cradled the terrified, unconscious Blair in his arms. Blair, are you okay? Seeing no wounds on her, Asher finally exhaled in relief, and his eyes turned terrifyingly cold as they fixed on me. Corelia, I really underestimated you. Blair's kidneys have been acting up. This is a good opportunity. We'll just take yours. He won't die anyway. He ordered the doctors to begin immediately. Seeing his demeanor, they dared not disobey and quietly complied. I felt the cold blade slice into my body. The excruciating pain made me cry out. Then my vision went black, and I passed out. When I awoke, I found myself lying in salt water. The soothing water gradually made my pain disappear. Then a large hand suddenly pulled me from the pool. I looked up and saw it was Asher. But at this moment, Asher's eyes were chillingly fierce. He gripped my neck, glaring at me savagely. Tell me, what did you do to Blair? Why did she faint? The intense, suffocating sensation made it impossible for me to speak. I calmly looked at him, not struggling at all. This stillness made Asher pause. Then he noticed my hand, already semi-transparent. Face instantly changed, and he gently lowered me. Corelia, your hand. But before he could inquire further, urgent shouts from the family's private medical team came from outside. Mr. Vance. Mrs. Vance's rejection symptoms are getting worse. Those words made Asher's face darken again. He grabbed me and threw me into the main hall. He pressed me onto a blood-drawing table and urgently told the doctors, since it's her heart, then use her blood. Keep drawing. You stop only when Blair's rejection symptoms disappear. Following Asher's command, a doctor rolled up my sleeve and began drawing blood. They continued. My blood was barely more than a pale trickle. I lay on the table, my clothes drenched in sweat. Mr. Vance, we can't draw anymore. She'll be in danger. The doctor quickly stood up to dissuade him, but Asher merely glanced at me, his impatient voice coming from above my head. Mermaid blood is regenerative. Who are you trying to fool? I said. Keep drawing. Don't stop until Blair's rejection symptoms are gone. Seeing Asher's resolve, the doctor resumed. As my consciousness gradually blurred, my vision went black, and I fainted. In the last moments before my awareness dissolved, I saw a trace of panic in Asher's eyes. How can this be? Isn't mermaid blood regenerative? Why is she fainting? When I woke up, I found myself lying on the floor. Asher was carefully holding a bowl of porridge, personally spoon-feeding Blair, his movements so gentle, afraid of scolding her. Noticing I was awake, Asher merely glanced at me, his cold voice coming from the side. Awake. There's porridge on the table. Go eat it. You're getting off easy. Smelling the fragrant porridge on the table, I tried to get up, but immediately lost my balance and fell to the floor. The loud crash startled Blair, and she fearfully shrank behind Asher. Asher's face immediately darkened. What if we took a little blood? You gave your heart for Blair. A bit of blood, and you're acting like you're dying. You'll heal anyway. Who are you putting on a show for? Don't worry. The Vance family is vast and prosperous. We'll provide for you for the rest of your life. I ignored his words, my eyes fixed on my feet. They were even more translucent than before. I probably had only one more day before my life would truly end. Seeing my lack of reaction, Asher's face grew even uglier. He started to rush over to scold me, but tripped, falling to the ground with a yelp of pain. What's wrong? He stood up and touched his forehead, discovering a large gash that was bleeding profusely. Before he could speak, a violent coughing fit racked him for a long moment. I knew this was the Vance family's luck running out, a karmic debt coming due. It was just the beginning. The Vance family built their fortune on the ocean, and over the years they had plundered countless marine lives. Their luck should have run out ages ago. Asher's previous brush with death was an example. Back then, Asher, young and impulsive, insisted on going out to sea alone, but encountered an unprecedented storm, and was trapped at sea for half a month. In the end, it was Grandpa Edward who begged me to save Asher's life. At that time, I was at a critical stage of my transformation, but I still agreed to save him. When I found Asher, he was already unconscious. His boat nearly capsized by the waves. I used my 9 lifetimes of accumulated power to fight the storm, and ultimately brought Asher back. But because of that, I was never able to complete my transformation, remaining in this half-human, half-fish form. When Asher awoke and learned that I had saved him, he didn't scorn my mermaid form. Instead, He knelt before me and declared, "No matter if you are human or mermaid, Corelia, I will marry no one but you in this life." I looked into Asher's resolute eyes, and an inexplicable emotion arose within me. It was the first time I'd felt such a thing since the day I was born. Later, I learned it was called love. In the beginning, Asher was wonderful to me. We spent every moment glued together, and I felt that a lifetime like that wouldn't be bad at all. But when Blair appeared, Asher's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. He personally tore the sweater I knitted for him to shreds and glared at me fiercely. "Blair was the one who saved me, but you stole all the credit for yourself. How can your heart be so malicious? A monster truly is a monster." From that day on, Asher ignored me more and more. Blair's health was fragile, and he somehow heard that a mermaid's heart could cure all illnesses. That was when Asher started targeting me for her. He had my heart removed 9 times. I hope this isn't your doing. Otherwise, don't blame me for what I do next. Asher's thoughts pull me back to reality. He took Blair's hand and left the room. As he went, he glanced at me, the warning in his eyes unmistakable. Watching their retreating backs, I looked at my current state. My feet were almost transparent, and even my body was slowly becoming translucent. "Asher, I'm like this and you're still suspicious of me?" The sudden ache in my heart was more painful than all the 9 times. I painfully crawled to the bathroom and filled the tub with fresh water. Gazing at the calm water, I knew what awaited me. But I didn't hesitate. I plunged in. The intense burning sensation tore at my body, but my mind and soul felt an unprecedented sense of peace. I even saw my mother, who had already ascended, waving to me, a serene smile on her face. As mist rose, my body gradually dissolved into foam. The moment my body completely turned to foam, dark clouds gathered above the Vance family estate. Bolts of lightning surged within them. In a nearby wing, Grandpa Edward's face instantly turned ashen. As if sensing something dire, his dragon-headed cane clattered to the floor. "It's here. The Vance family's reckoning has come." He rushed out, with a group of bodyguards desperately searching for Asher, who was outside asking him where I was. Asher initially didn't want to tell him, but seeing Grandpa Edward's face dark as a pot bottom, he finally led them to the room. But by then, the room was empty. Asher's face fell. Just then, the sound of water from the bathroom caught everyone's attention. A dreadful feeling surged in their hearts. Pushing open the door, they saw the last trace of my body dissolving into foam. At this sight, Grandpa Edward collapsed to his knees, clutching the bathtub, crying out in anguish. Asher, meanwhile, stood rooted to the spot, muttering, "No. Mermaids can heal, can't they? How could she die? This can't be real." At the same time, Grandpa Edward's phone began to ring. He answered, and his secretary's frantic voice came through. A Vance family property had suddenly faced catastrophic financial ruin, losing hundreds of millions. The secretary's frantic voice bleeding through the phone speaker was entirely drowned out by a deafening crack of thunder that seemed to split the very foundation of the Vance family estate. The lights flickered and died, plunging the opulent bathroom into an eerie, strobe-lit twilight illuminated only by the violent lightning outside. "No, no, no, no." Asher fell to his knees beside the bathtub, the sharp porcelain biting into his skin. He plunged his hands into the fresh water, his fingers desperately trying to grasp the iridescent sea foam that was rapidly popping, vanishing into nothingness. "Corelia, stop playing games. Come back. I command you to come back." He clawed at the water, splashing it onto his expensive suit, his eyes wide and bloodshot. But there was no flesh. There was no bone. There was only the cold, ordinary tap water, devoid of the ancient magic that had sustained their family for generations. "Mermaids don't die like this," Asher screamed, his voice cracking as he looked back at the terrified doctors standing in the doorway. "Do something. Freeze the water. Scoop it up. Put it back in the salt water. Now." None of the doctors moved. They stared in horrified silence at the empty tub. Grandpa Edward didn't speak. His phone had slipped from his trembling fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The old man's face was utterly devoid of color, his jaw slack, his chest heaving with shallow, irregular breaths. He looked at the water, then at his grandson, and finally, his eyes rolled back. With a sickening thud, the patriarch of the Vance family collapsed backward, his body seizing violently as a massive stroke ripped through his brain. "Grandpa," Asher shouted, but the chaos had only just begun. Outside, the storm intensified into a localized hurricane. The massive, floor-to-ceiling windows of the estate's grand hall blew inward with explosive force, showering the ancient rugs and priceless antiques in jagged shards of glass. The wind howled like a choir of grieving banshees, carrying with it the undeniable scent of the deep ocean, salt, brine, and ancient decay. The karmic debt had come due. The Vance family's luck, built upon the stolen grace of a mermaid, had officially shattered. Over the next 48 hours, the Vance empire did not merely crumble, it was eradicated. It was as if the universe itself was aggressively deleting their existence. 9 massive cargo ships, the pride of the Vance shipping fleet, encountered freak rogue waves in different oceans across the globe and vanished without a trace. Their offshore oil rigs suffered catastrophic blowouts, leading to multi-billion-dollar lawsuits and immediate asset freezes by international governments. The family stock plummeted so fast the trading platforms had to halt their tickers, but not before the Vance net worth was reduced to effectively zero. Asher sat in the sterile waiting room of the city's intensive care unit, his hair unkempt, his suit wrinkled and stained with dried water. His phone had stopped ringing because the battery had died, and he couldn't bring himself to care. The police had already visited him twice regarding allegations of massive tax fraud and embezzlement, crimes that the family had successfully kept hidden for decades with their unnatural luck. A doctor emerged from the ICU, his face grim. "Mr. Vance, your grandfather has stabilized, but the brain damage is extensive. He is completely paralyzed and nonverbal. He will likely remain in a vegetative state for the rest of his life." Asher slowly raised his head. "And Blair?" The doctor hesitated, a look of profound unease crossing his professional features. We don't know how to explain it. Her body is violently rejecting the transplants. All of them. The heart, the blood. It's as if the foreign tissue is actively rotting inside her. We've put her on the strongest immunosuppressants available, but her cellular degradation is moving at an impossible rate. She is asking for you." Asher pushed past the doctor, dragging his exhausted body down the hallway to Blair's isolation room. When he stepped inside, the stench hit him first, a smell like low tide, dead fish, and gangrene. Blair lay on the bed, thrashing in agonizing pain. Her normally flawless skin was covered in dark, scaly, necrotic patches. Black veins pulsed sickeningly beneath her neck, branching out from her chest where Corelia's heart had been surgically implanted 9 times. "Asher." Blair shrieked, her voice hoarse and raspy, sounding like stones grinding together. "Make it stop. It burns. It feels like I'm drowning from the inside." Asher rushed to her side, his hands hovering over her, unsure of where to touch, without causing more pain. "Blair, hold on. I'll find another doctor. I'll find another mermaid. I'll buy an entire fleet and dredge the ocean until I find a cure for you." "There is no cure," Blair screamed, coughing up a mouthful of thick, black, salty water. It spilled onto her pristine white sheets, staining them like ink. "It's that monster. She cursed me. She cursed us both." Asher's mind flashed back to the bathroom, to the translucent, fading girl who had looked at him with such profound emptiness. He remembered the feeling of Corelia's cold, transparent neck under his hands. "She didn't curse you," Asher muttered, a creeping, horrific realization beginning to claw at the edges of his sanity. "Her magic died. The heart. It was only kept alive by her magic. Without her." "Then bring her back," Blair shrieked, her facade of the gentle, fragile girl entirely shattered by the agonizing pain. Her eyes bulged, bloodshot and feral. "You promised me. You said I would live forever. You said her heart belonged to me." "I can't," Asher yelled back, tears of frustration and exhaustion spilling down his cheeks. "She's gone, Blair." She turned to foam. Blair grabbed Asher's collar with sudden, unnatural strength, her fingernails digging into his skin. "You useless idiot. I shouldn't have ever bothered with you. I should have left you to die on that beach." The room went dead silent. The machines beeping in the background seemed to fade away. Asher froze, the blood draining from his face. What did you just say?" Blair gasped, realizing her slip, but the searing pain in her chest stripped away her ability to lie. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I actually went out into that storm? I was taking a walk on the shore the next morning. I found you half dead on the sand, clinging to some seaweed. I only claimed I saved you because I saw the Vance family crest on your watch. I knew you were the heir." Asher felt the floor drop out from beneath him. A ringing sound started in his ears. No, you had the necklace. The scale necklace. I bought it from an old fisherman for $20. Blair cackled, a wet, choking sound as more black seawater leaked from her lips. "You were so desperate for a savior. You believed whatever I said. And you gave me everything. But now look at me. Look at what your stupidity has done to me." Asher stumbled backward, pulling out of her grip. He stared at her, seeing not the love of his life, but a grotesque parasite who had fed off the purest creature he had ever known. "No matter if you are human or mermaid, Corelia, I will marry no one but you in this life." His own words echoed in his mind, sharp as glass. "You monster. It's an honor for your heart to save Blair. He remembered Corelia's quiet, broken smiles. He remembered tearing apart the sweater she had knitted for him, a sweater she had made with fingers bleeding from learning human tools, just to keep him warm. He remembered ordering the doctors to cut her open 9 times. He remembered draining her blood while she lay sweating, turning transparent, begging him with her silence. He had tortured his savior. He had butchered the only soul in the world who had truly loved him, all for a greedy, lying fraud. Ah! Asher let out a guttural, animalistic scream, grabbing his own hair as if trying to rip it from his scalp. He backed away from Blair's bed, ignoring her frantic pleas for him to stay. He burst out of the hospital room, running blindly down the corridor, knocking over carts and startling nurses. He ran out into the pouring rain. The storm had not ceased. The city was submerged in a torrential downpour, the streets flooding with muddy water. Asher fell to his knees in the middle of the road, the rain hammering against him. He screamed Corelia's name into the roaring thunder, begging for forgiveness, begging for a second chance, begging for the magic to return. But the sky only answered with a blinding flash of lightning and the bitter taste of salt in the rain. Far away, deep within the abyssal trenches of the ocean, where no human light had ever reached, the water was tranquil. I did not die. Not in the way mortals understand death. When the fresh water tore my physical vessel apart, the agonizing burning was only the shedding of a heavy, cursed skin. As my body dissolved into sea foam, my spirit was violently pulled back into the ancient currents of the earth. I floated in a realm of pure, luminescent blue, weightless and free of the excruciating pain of my missing heart. Welcome home, my child. I opened my eyes, not human eyes, but the celestial vision of the deep. My mother stood before me, radiant and majestic, her tail shimmering with the colors of galaxies, untainted by human pollution or greed. Around her swam the spirits of our ancestors, thousands of them, singing a low, resonant harmony that vibrated through the very core of the ocean. I looked down in my hands. They were whole. My chest, which had been scarred and hollowed out 9 times by the man I loved, was smooth and glowing with a soft, bioluminescent light. The power I had exhausted to save the Vance family over 3 generations had been returned to me, multiplied by the ocean's wrath. You have suffered the ultimate betrayal, Corelia, my mother's voice echoed in my mind. But you endured. By accepting the fresh water, by refusing to strike back with hatred in your final moments, you have broken the binding pact. The Vance family's debt is forfeit. You have ascended. I floated upward, my form shifting. I was no longer the naive, half-human creature who had dragged a drowning boy to shore. I felt the immense, terrifying power of the ocean coursing through my veins. I could feel the shifting of the tectonic plates, the pull of the moon on the tides, the millions of creatures that called the sea their home. And I could feel the chaos on the surface. I closed my eyes and projected my consciousness upward. I saw the Vance shipping empire swallowed by whirlpools I didn't even have to summon. The sea itself was rejecting them. I saw Grandpa Edward trapped in the prison of his own paralyzed body, fully aware of his family's ruin, but unable to even scream. I saw Blair. Her mortal body, incapable of sustaining a mermaid's organ without the mermaid's blessing, was decaying. I watched with detached calmness as her human greed consumed her from the inside out, turning her into a living, rotting husk. And finally, I saw Asher. He was a broken shell of a man. Over the next few months, the media documented the spectacular, humiliating fall of the Vance heir. Stripped of his wealth, his mansion seized by banks, his friends abandoning him, Asher was left with nothing. He lived in a dilapidated shack near the very beach where I had first saved him. Every day, rain or shine, he would walk to the edge of the water. He was gaunt, his clothes in rags, his eyes sunken and vacant. He would carry a small, plastic bucket of fresh water, pour it onto the sand, and frantically try to scoop up the sea foam that washed ashore, murmuring my name like a madman. Corelia, I'm sorry. I'll put you in the salt water. I'll fix you. He had lost his mind. The guilt, the revelation of Blair's betrayal, and the loss of everything he owned had fractured his psyche beyond repair. Part of me, the old, foolish Corelia, felt a twinge of pity. But the ocean is vast, ancient, and ultimately unforgiving. The pity was swept away by a cold, majestic indifference. One evening, as the anniversary of my death approached, a massive storm began to brew off the coast. It was a storm unlike any the region had seen in a century. The sky turned a bruised, unnatural purple, and the waves grew as tall as skyscrapers, crashing against the cliffs with earth-shattering force. Town authorities issued mandatory evacuation orders. Sirens wailed through the deserted streets. But Asher didn't evacuate. Instead, a manic gleam appeared in his sunken eyes. He found an old, rotting rowboat tied to a ruined pier. He pushed it into the violent, churning surf, climbing aboard with nothing but the clothes on his back. Corelia, he screamed over the roaring wind, paddling desperately against the massive waves that threatened to capsize him at any second. I'm coming. Save me again. Please. If you save me, I'll know you forgive me. I'll know you're still here. He was trying to recreate the day we met. He was risking his life, hoping that my love for him would compel me to rise from the depths and rescue him once more. Deep below, I opened my eyes. I swam upward, moving faster than a torpedo, ascending through the dark, icy waters until I breached the surface. The storm raged around me, but the winds parted as I rose. I levitated above the churning sea, my lower half composed of swirling water and starlight, my hair floating wildly in the gale. I was a goddess of the tempest, radiating a terrifying, blinding beauty. Asher's rowboat was violently tossed over the crest of a massive wave. He was thrown into the freezing water, flailing, choking on the brine. Then he looked up. Through the rain and the darkness, he saw me. "See, Corelia," he choked out, treading water frantically, his face lighting up with a desperate, hysterical joy. "You're alive. You're an angel. I knew it. I knew you'd come back for me. Save me, Corelia. Please, I'm so sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Pull me up." He reached his hand out toward me, his fingers trembling, waiting for me to take it. I floated closer, hovering just a few feet above him. I looked down into his desperate, pleading eyes. I saw the man I had once loved, the man who had promised me the world, the man who had ordered me butchered on a steel table while he held another woman. I slowly lowered my arm. Asher's smile widened, tears of relief mingling with the seawater on his face. But I didn't reach for his hand. Instead, I pointed a single, glowing finger at his chest. "You took my heart 9 times, Asher Vance." My voice echoed, not just from my lips, but from the storm, the waves, and the deep abyss below. It was a voice devoid of love, devoid of anger. Only the absolute, crushing weight of justice. The ocean remembers. The ocean collects. Asher's smile vanished. Confusion, and then absolute terror, washed over his face as he realized I wasn't there to save him. "No. Corelia, please. You love me. You said you'd protect my family. The pact is broken. My debt is paid. Now you pay yours." I turned my back on him. "Corelia. No. Don't leave me. Corelia." His screams were cut short as a massive, 50-foot wave, black as ink and heavy as stone, rose up behind him. He didn't even have time to take a final breath before the wall of water crashed down, swallowing him whole. I didn't watch him drown. I didn't need to. I could feel his struggles ceasing as the ocean pulled him down into the lightless trenches, where his bones would join the wreckage of the Vance family fleet, forgotten and buried forever. The storm immediately broke. The heavy purple clouds parted, revealing a breathtaking canopy of stars and a full, silver moon that illuminated the now calm, glassy surface of the sea. I took one last look at the distant shoreline. The human world, with all its greed, its lies, and its fleeting pains, felt impossibly small. I dove back into the water, a flawless arc of silver light, returning to the abyssal depths where I truly belonged. I was Corelia. I was whole. And for the first time in 3 lifetimes, I was entirely, beautifully free.